And we gon' bring you that dope.
And we gon' bring you that dope. It's Gator Beater, baby. Man, state to state, baby, coast to coast. Like the fire, baby, spark the joke.
And we gon' bring you that dope.
Come talk with Erica, man, talk with G. And all you gotta do is talk with me.
And we gon' bring you that dope. And we gon' bring you that dope. And we gon' give you that dope. And we gon' bring you that dope.
Yeah. Yeah. Can't hear my snare. Yeah. Turn up the snare a little bit.
Y'all can, if y'all don't know, y'all should be able to tell that me and Gator are music heads.
For real.
We deep off in the music. Gator used to be a rapper, and I always wanted to be a DJ.
With the chicka.
Yes. DJ Easy E.
DJ Easy E in the place.
Good evening, Harrison Family Values. Good evening. Welcome to the show. Thank you for tuning in. Harrison Family Values has a dope YouTube channel, some dope content over there. I love to see our Black men putting out positive messages for the community.
Exactly.
So thank you for tuning in. It's an honor.
It definitely is. Welcome to the virtual congregation. Have a seat over there.
Yes.
If you need some cans, we'll pass them out.
We got a great show for y'all tonight. I'm excited about this topic. We were going to talk about something else, but we wanted to catch this topic while it's still fresh and new on the people's minds. This is something that's fascinating to me because there's so many complicated layers to this situation. Yeah. I have some mixed feelings about all of it, and I've been watching a lot of the reactions on social media to the Danaiajackson interview that she did on Dearfuturewifey podcast. And I studied that interview. I mean, I listened very intently to every word that she said because it's just interesting to me. I've been in the type of relationship that she was in. Yeah. So a lot of the stories that she shared about her past experience and what led up to that relationship and all of the stuff that she went through in the relationship really hit home for me because it sounded very, very familiar. But on the surface level, and then on a deeper level, my intuition and my healed self listened to it in a different way and took a lot of other stuff from it that I didn't see any other people touching on or talking about. And so I wanted to, get into some of that stuff.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of feedback online about it, right? And I saw a lot of comments, some super positive, some rather negative. And when I was taking it for face value, just kind of just listening to what was being said, and it definitely started ringing the bells of different things that I've heard other people say, like when they've been in similar relationships. With you saying that, a while ago, I think there's a lot of women who were like, "Oh, that's just stupid," but women who have actually been in, because there was a lot of that. I would never let no man do that to me. I would never let.
Mm-hmm.
But those people not being in a relationship like that have no clue what that entails and the healing process that it takes to get through it, which I don't think is complete yet.
That's the key. What you just said, that healing process is just begun.
Hmm.
And what I am seeing a lot of people on social media make these, you know, comments that I'm glad she's healed. I'm glad she's over that situation. No, her healing has just begun.
Hmm.
Because in that interview, I saw and heard a lot of stuff from her that was contradictory,
Hmm.
um, hot and cold. She's not healed,
I don't think so. I don't think
but she
completely
looks
yet.
good. She looks good. And
Yeah.
this day and time, social media is so hungry for a story, a
Hmm.
backstory to, a dramatic situation. This Derrick Jackson stuff has been going on for years. People have been talking back and forth. He's always been a very controversial person in the internet. Men hated him,
Oh yeah, they did.
women loved him. He was a very polarizing person.
Mm.
But then when people started hearing more of the backstory of all the stuff of him cheating and how he's telling women not to accept all these things that he's actually doing himself in his own marriage, most people didn't even know he was married.
Right.
And people were so upset, they feel like they got bamboozled, they got tricked, they got duped, and the men were coming out of the woodwork saying, aha, we told y'all,
Yeah, there was a
and the
lot of
women
that.
were pissed. And for me, I guess because I've dealt with men like him in the past, when he first started coming out and getting really popular and making all these videos and saying all the right things, I always sat back and be like, something just don't feel right about him.
Yeah, we both said that there was an inauthenticity to
Yes.
him. I was gonna
Yes.
get it right. Bow, 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 bow. Uh,
Yes.
but there was definitely that with him. You could tell and you could see that and you could pick it up. And I used to tell a lot of women that, like, I don't know about it. Oh, you just hating because he fine. And it's like, nah, it's not that. It's not
And the,
that.
the, the part of him being fine just didn't compensate for this feeling of like he's slimy. Something ain't right. I don't know what it is, but something ain't
They
right with this.
Yeah, they call it icky. It's that
Yeah,
he got the ick. It's
yeah. He gave me the ick.
he gave you the ick. Yeah, but he's a classic narcissist in the form of in relationships. He doesn't appear outwards to be that way. It reflects his confidence. But what it
Hmm.
actually is a bit of narcissism that's thrown in there, the controlling part. Like his whole goal was to manipulate situations. And when you
Mm-hmm.
listen to the interview, you hear a lot of that when she goes into some of the things that he was saying that he would do. And he knew he could get away with that with her because of her faith, because there are some women, and I know a few that I've spoken to recently, who, because of their faith, they will put up with more things that they should put up with
Mm-hmm.
because they're always being gaslit by the church. And what I
Mm.
mean by that is you have a lot of churches that will gaslight you into staying into relationships with
Yes,
people.
because
They will make you feel like, oh, I'm doing something wrong if I don't forgive my husband or forgive my wife and take her back.
exactly. A lot of it is gaslighting, spiritual manipulation.
Hmm.
Um, misplaced loyalty. I wrote a bunch of notes because
Yeah.
I rewatched the interview again today so I could really focus on the points that I wanted to make. And she was the perfect target because she told her story of how she dealt with rejection and abandonment issues from her
Hmm.
father,
Right.
the relationship with her father, and how she used to try to make herself into a tomboy to get his attention because
Right.
he focused more on his sons and he didn't really have a lot of attention for her as a girl.
Right.
She also talked about, he used to make her promises about he was going to come get her, do this and do that with her, and he would always break those promises. And when you go into that, that's something I learned about myself. When I started getting into relationships, I was already broken. I was already trying to fill a void inside of myself with my daddy issues that I didn't know consciously what I was doing, what I was looking for. I just knew
Right.
I needed male validation in some form.
Exactly. And and when she told that story, that one of the things that really popped out to me about it was the fact that, she was literally, and you hate to say it like this, but she was literally preyed upon
Hmm.
by this dude. like
Yeah,
he knew with her, oh, I could do that because he knew about everything she had been through.
yeah, yes.
Including the rape scenario and everything. And he was like, "Oh, that one right there. Let me," you know.
And the thing about that is I don't so much as believe that at that age they were both like 19. I don't think that he consciously preyed upon her. I think that both of their subconscious dysfunction from their past attracted them to each other.
Yeah, yeah,
And it
yep,
was familiar. A lot of times when you grow up in toxic, dysfunctional um, families and you meet somebody else who has a similar background, you're unconsciously attracted to them because it's familiar. You don't really know what the attraction is. You just know that this feels familiar.
right, right, right. And that happens a lot when you have two young people who have those similar stories. I mean, heck, young people congregate because they smoke cigarettes. Oh, you smoke cigarettes too? Oh yeah, we cool. Oh, you like anime too? Okay, we hang together. That
Yes.
happens a lot in relationships as well. People who have similar traumas to you end up being right there with you, and somebody that you can actually talk to and relate to, even if you don't have a friend, like a friendship or bond. You still have a trauma bond,
Hmm.
I guess you could say, in that scenario. And yeah, and what I meant by the preying upon her is, preying upon her as they got older. He's
Oh
preying
yeah.
upon the fact that I know that I
I
can do
know
this
she's
for
not going anywhere
because I know her
because
history. I know what she's been through, you
yeah,
know.
yeah. Before we get any deeper into our discussion, we got a special guest backstage that I want to bring
Oh,
out. Yes, he's
ladies and gentlemen,
one of our Pod Squad family fellow podsters. We've been on his show. He's been on our show. It's always an honor to have him on. Let's bring out Talk to Q Radio Show. What's up, Quincy
there's he go, there's he go.
from the
Talk to
SIP?
Q
What's going on,
Radio.
people? How's everybody doing this evening?
Listen to the
What's
voice.
going
Listen to the
on? Talk
voice.
to Q Radio. It's
Stop it!
back.
Stop it!
Yes, welcome on. How you been?
Been doing pretty well. I can't complain too much.
Oh, I
Yes.
forgot. I forgot. The best beard in podcasting.
Second to
Talk
none.
to Q.
Mm, you all are too kind.
Yes, Q. So we talking about this Jackson interview and unpacking a lot of stuff that we heard and observed, breaking down some of the things that we saw. Um, the general thing that I've been seeing a lot of people on social media saying is, "Ooh, I'm so happy for her. She got away from him. She's glowing up. her story is going to inspire a whole bunch of women. You know, she's going to set a bunch of people free, and I'm like, she's not even there yet for that. I don't see it. And for me, feeling like a lot of her story mirrors the things that I went through, I know that she's just not there yet. But I feel like a lot of so many people want to hear her side of the story, and it's like she's thrusted into this limelight, so she's rolling with it. But I don't think she is really ready for it yet. What y'all think?
I, I agree with you because some people feel like they have to do something because they already have an online presence. Now,
Hmm.
even though hers is kind of because of him, she's still a well known person. So she
Right.
may feel the need to just jump out there and tell her story. But I agree with you. She's probably not ready. She probably needs to figure herself out first, get completely healed. And that way, maybe the things that if you decide to tell your story, maybe it will actually benefit someone. You'll have more knowledge of self, which will allow you to actually help someone. Whereas maybe you accidentally help someone because they just happen to be a little more insightful and don't require you to be completely healed. So
Yeah.
I saw a lot of the interview and it was kind of sad, to be honest with you. But unfortunately, there are so many people in the world going through something similar, men and women.
Hmm.
And so if it helps one or two people, um, to get out of a bad relationship by seeing that she's out of it, even though the reason she's out is not necessarily because she volunteered, so to speak, it's kind of like worst case scenario, she had to leave, I guess, if you want to say that. But I really think that I applaud her for attempting to tell her story, but I don't want her to force it just because she's a social media figure. Just go take care of yourself. And if you feel the need, then do so. If not, then that's fine too.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. So here's how I think about it. Right, I think the platform that she was on, I feel a little bit better about her coming out and speaking on that particular platform. I think that it's like you were saying, Q. I think being able to tell your story, if it does help somebody, and help, because there's sometimes, look, I get on WebMD all the time. It's like, oh man, my jaw hurt right here. Let me see if I can figure out what other people say and why they jaw hurting and why and oh, that's what it is. Maybe I need to go to the doctor then. I think
Mhm.
that's what that interview was for a lot of people. It's like, okay, she was, a lot of people was calling her stupid for staying and this and that. And with, the way that the interview went down, it was kind of like, okay, well, it wasn't really even just being stupid for staying. There's a lot of women who go through those particular things in relationships. So it wasn't something where, when you got to listen to the fact that, oh, she ain't being stupid. One of the things that the host said that I found real profound was, he was like, I wanted to make sure I brought you here and got you made up and everything so they couldn't pick you apart. So because there was a lot of people who, when she started going through that, she was going through all of the issues, there were a lot of people who were picking her apart and saying, like they were saying on the show, well, that's probably why he left you, because you was wearing bonnets all the time and you were doing all the, there
Mhm.
was a lot of that was out there. So I'm glad that the platform itself, it was good that she was on that particular platform. I do believe, and this is just, like I say, my personal opinion, and it's y'all opinion as well. Hey, I don't think that who is me to say that she's healed or not. But just from my observation, I don't know if she's completely there yet. But I
Mhm.
don't think that anybody who puts themselves in that space of healing really knows the exact moment that they're healed, right? Because it's you don't know it until you get bruised. I could say that my arm is fine after I break it until I bump into a wall. And then it's like, oh, whoa, wait a minute. Maybe it ain't. So I think personally, I think that, she does probably still have some work to do. But I don't think it was a problem for her to share her story. Now, if she decides to make a big media push, on it, then I'm kind of like, oh, I don't know if that's the time for you to be doing it just yet.
Yeah, I think it was too soon. I really feel it was too soon because in the interview, I heard a lot of contradictory information from her. Um, I heard her holding back a lot because there's still some sense of her wanting to protect him there. I heard that.
Yeah.
And I heard a lot of misplaced um, blame on spirituality, God, and religion. I heard a lot of it was God this, it was God that. And that part upset me because when you tell your story, you said from the beginning there was always other women in the picture and you knew about it and you was a willing participant in most of it. So where did God come in that situation when you knew there was always other women? And then you even said a couple of weeks before y'all got married, there was an instance where another woman posted pictures of him
Hmm.
and y'all had a big blowout over that and you still married him. So my issue with that is that I hate when women go into a situation that God was never in the first place, but then you want to invite God into it to fix it for you.
Yeah.
And you want God, and this is what a lot of women do. I've been guilty. When we get in a relationship with God or when we call ourselves religious, then we want to use that in our marriage and our relationships to make that man comply.
Hmm.
I'm on God. God is on my side now, and I'm with God. And if you want to be my husband, you have to follow God too. That is really a means of control. You don't want him to serve God for his own reasons. You want him to serve God so that he will be faithful to you. And
Yeah.
a lot of
And
women use religion and spirituality as a means of control over their partner when they're not doing what they need them to do.
True. And also there's a lot of people use God as an excuse to not leave, to
That
stay in a
too.
bad situation. It's,
hmm
God's going to work it out, and he got me and all that. But faith without works is dead. So, if you're putting in the
hmm
work and it's not leading to any fruit, so to speak, then you got to get going. And you got to
Yes.
look at the signs because he's probably sending you signs too to say, hey, you shouldn't have been fooling with this dude in the first place.
And
Yeah.
there was so many signs that she told us about leading up to
hmm
the marriage. So I don't feel like they really had a real marriage. I don't feel like it was ever a real marriage. And so feeling that way, and I feel this same way about my own marriage. When I look back on it, it wasn't a real marriage. It was what I wanted, and I wanted to pull God along into it.
hmm Right.
But he showed me signs over and over again that this is not right. I'm not telling you to do this, but you're going to do it anyway.
hmm Yeah, I think especially when you're young in it, I think what happens a lot of times is that you misconstrue what it is that you're actually doing. When was talking earlier about her, getting, gaslit, like spiritually gaslit by, some of the people around her. You've been in churches before where, oh, your husband had cheated on you and all that. But you know what though? That's a man. Just pray for him, girl, and just gonna be all right. He gonna be good. He gonna be, and you see that a lot. I remember my grandmother's church. They had a whole um board for women who had been cheated on and how to make their husbands, how to forgive their husbands and allow them back. And it was a whole class on this that was going on at the church. There's spirituality can be weaponized, right?
Very much so.
And I think sometimes when you have somebody who is very impressionable, who already has these issues with her father, with, being overlooked and shy and all those types of things, they could literally, okay, well, this is how you do it. You just ask God for it. That's all you want. You want him, and just ask God for it.
Hmm.
And you impart that on somebody to the point to where they believe it. When I listened to that interview, one of the things that I heard was the same thing you did, and God was telling me to do this, and God was telling me to do that. They can't even differentiate. This is how I know that the healing part hasn't really completed just yet. They can't differentiate between what God is telling them and the discernment that He's given them during that
Hmm.
time. So there's still some stuff that she has left to do. That's why I said I don't think she's completely healed. I'm not knocking her for telling her story, but at the same time, yeah, there's some stuff that needs to be done. But I will say that a lot of that I think is because it's not from her just being. You just got to remember, she's not. We would like to think that she as a woman would know better and she would be able to, but there's so many women who go through that every day, and they have to go through the complete journey for them to look back and say, hey, I was wrong, I wasn't healed then.
Right.
I'm healed now, but I wasn't healed then.
Yeah, and then another thing to consider as far as why she's probably coming out now is that someone who is easily manipulated can be manipulated into jumping the gun as far as telling their story.
Yep.
We don't know what type of people are in her corner, and there may be some people who are saying, look, you can really capitalize on this if you tell your story. You can grow your following. You can possibly write a book and make money and things of that nature. So we don't quite know the motivation behind it. Again, it still could help someone, but
Hmm.
I think the main concern right now should be herself. That's the only person she needs to
Oh
be
yeah.
worried about.
Yes. Yes. And I thought about um, the big picture and how this kind of stuff plays out on the internet and social media. Our society is so hungry for a comeback story. They like the thing about this situation is that they hate Derrick Jackson so much that they want her to win so bad.
Yeah.
And I feel like people are trying to push her, to show, to be an example, to show people that men like this don't win, and you can move on from a relationship like this and glow up and do better than them. And that's what it is. And it's like, is she folding under that pressure and letting pressure push her too fast? Because my thing is, a lot of times the most important part of your healing is going to be done behind closed doors, not in front of the world. But if you have all of these people in your ear telling you this and telling you that and telling you how you're inspiring so many people, that puts a type of responsibility on your back now that you feel like people are listening and people are waiting on you to tell your story, to get their own healing. It makes you move too fast. And I feel like that's what it is.
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
it very well could be. Like I said, I think just because of this particular platform that she was on doing it, I'm okay with it. Now, if she decided that if she wanted to get on 15 different podcasts and she starts doing the media tour, then I feel like, okay, well, now you're pushing yourself out there.
Hmm.
You're trying to overdo. You try. There's a method to it, to the madness of it. Just this particular interview. Just I don't see it. I don't see that with it. But like I said, if I see in the next 3-4 weeks that she's on, everybody's podcast talking all kind of stuff, then it's like, see, now I'm wondering.
Well, she already mentioned that she's doing courses and
Yeah,
classes
yeah,
to help women heal. And I'm like, you still do need to be in some courses and classes yourself.
yeah.
Yes.
I, I
Yeah, that
I
could be
think.
a money grab. I don't know.
Well, I mean, to a certain extent too, you got to remember, she got to eat too. you know. Now,
That's the thing I
you can
don't
really.
like because I see this culture on social media of, um, well, it was your story, you went through it, so you ought to make some money off of it. And that's why I say it to me is starting to look like trauma is being packaged and sold as a product. Now everybody has a trauma story that they've overcome and they want to sell a book about it.
Hmm.
And they want somebody to buy it.
Yeah, I now that part I don't know because John F. Kennedy did the same thing. Jackie O did the same thing.
I know.
That's just
Just
you
because
have
somebody
control.
did it before don't mean I feel like it's okay to do. I
Right,
mean, it's
right.
like some things are just for you.
Yeah, yeah,
Some things are
yeah.
just for you. I mean, the world doesn't have to know our story every time we go through something. I want to inspire. I want to help other people, and we got
I
too
mean,
much of that.
That's
we
true, but I don't think a lot of people really understand that what you just said though, because when you think about reality TV only exists because people want you to see their drama. And
Yes,
because there's not a shortage of an audience who wants to see that drama, makes them
right.
feel better about themselves, you know? So
It's
it's
right,
kind
right.
of
it's
a sad
validation.
situation. Yeah, it's kind of a sad situation that we live in because there is money to be made off of trauma, unfortunately. And it's very inexpensive to have someone just come on and tell their story as opposed to paying an actor, writing a movie, and,
That's very true.
acting it all out. So it's just, I don't know. It's the social media
Hmm.
age.
Right. I
Yeah.
mean, R.I.P. to the late great Tina Turner, but that was what Love's Got to Do was basically that same thing.
Mhm.
It's just because wasn't nobody concerned about all of the hits and everything. All they was worried about was, dang, I did that to you. you know
Right,
so
right.
so yeah, I mean, so that's just something that's normalized, like I said. But the only thing about that is, and that doesn't make it right or wrong, but I do believe that if it's fine to tell your story. It becomes a problem when you try to force that story down people's throat, that trauma down people's throat, and you start creating more trauma by doing it. I was using an example the other day when I was thinking about the title of that, about packaging trauma and for sale, basically. I was thinking about the Christian Rock and Blueface thing, and I was like,
Right.
that's packaging trauma and literally selling it every week.
I call that more active toxicity because they.
That is.
Yeah, I
That
mean,
is.
it's happening in real time in front of the world. It's not like something that happened to them and they
Mhm.
overcame it and they grew from it and now they're telling their story. They're playing the whole train wreck out in front of the world, and
Right.
people love it.
Right. Which I feel is even worse for our culture. I hope that one day we do get to a point to where we look at the reality TV thing as like a past fad, like it's
Hmm.
gone by the wayside. But like he was saying, a lot of these things are so inexpensive to do. Reality TV
Hmm.
is really inexpensive to do. You don't really even have to act, really hire actors. You might give them a little nudge on what to say, but half of the stuff that they doing is fairly inexpensive. That's why there's so much reality TV out
Hmm.
there right now. It's trashy and it's inexpensive, and they know people go tune in for the trash.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
it's very unfortunate. And, had Tina Turner been born in 1995, there never would have been a movie. It would have played out on Facebook Live.
Right.
Right. You
You wouldn't
shake
be
that
able to
face.
make the movie because everybody already seen it online.
As soon as he shoved the cake in her face, it would have went to commercial. Like, oh, what's about to happen?
Yeah.
Yes.
So
Another aspect that I wrote down that I don't know if y'all noticed, but this is another reason why I feel like she isn't fully healed yet. Because in order to survive in a relationship for that many years with a narcissistic person, you have to adapt and you have to adopt some of their ways. And sometimes you adopt some of those narcissistic ways yourself, that's the only way you can survive in a relationship with a person like that. You have to beat them at their own game.
Mm-hmm.
And I recognized in that interview some narcissistic traits in her because I sense some arrogance in her of she feels like she's a chosen one and she's one of God's favorites and God has favored her and chosen her to put this message out there because when he asked her about that video that she made cursing everybody for
Yeah.
talking about her and her husband, she never apologized. She never said she was wrong for it. She said, "Oh, now people mad at me just because I know the Bible and I know how to pray."
Yeah. She was, and what she said was, and I remember blowing up about this because, I'm like, you shouldn't do that. So she said that it was scripture. She was like, they get mad at me because I'm quoting scripture. She legit was quoting scripture. That
Yes,
is in the Bible. I think, and credit to the host of that show because he called her on it. And
he
one of the
called her
things he
out
said
on it.
was, yeah, he said, but it's the context. It's the way that the way that you did it. You can't be doing it like
She
that.
was putting
You know,
word curses on people. And my
right, right.
thing is, when you take a scripture out of the Bible and then you weaponize it, because that scripture was meant to avenge a person who's been lied on and persecuted when they're working in the line of God
Hmm.
and furthering his kingdom. You mean to tell me Derrick Jackson was doing God's work? I don't think so.
Yeah, that's one of those things that I always look at a little bit differently, only because I've been to a few different places where you know if they were to see what she said, they'd be like, okay, there's no problem because that's just what we do.
No,
That's
I
just
didn't
that's just
like
how
that.
it
How
is.
she said
You know.
your kids will be vagabonds
Hmm.
and let the word go down into your throat and choke you. And she was doing all the hand signals. And she doubled down and said she's still staying behind it. But and then the crazy part in the interview, if y'all didn't hear it, she made that video after he asked her for a divorce.
Hmm. I heard it. That's why I knew that okay, that she just got broken at that moment. You know, because she at the complete lowest was still fighting for something that was already lost.
Exactly.
That was her broken moment right there, which I think when you before you get into the healing process, some people have to have that completely broken moment where it's like there's nothing else I can do.
And
And
this was
and
just
and
last year. This wasn't
this
like
was
no 2, 3
right,
years ago.
right, right.
Well,
So yeah.
I think, and I'll say this, and I'll get ready to go. I appreciate you all allowing me to chime in,
Yes,
but
sir.
I'll say this: she needs some people in her corner, her family or whatever, who care about her to tell her to just be still and hush, you know, and
Yes.
just don't do so much, okay?
Yes.
Because this is a guy who he he really needed her. He needed her because how do
He
you
did.
look trying to coach people on love if you don't have someone? So
Yes.
He
he
did need her.
needed a marriage to be in, you know,
Yes.
Hmm.
so to speak. And um, so she served a purpose to him. And like you said, maybe he didn't intentionally go that route to manipulate her, but over time, it just worked out in his favor and he was getting paid and she was benefiting too. And I'm sure
Oh
she
yes.
enjoyed that. Um,
Yes.
but I really wish that she would just, if she sincerely wants to get better, I really wish that she'll just stop. Okay. You know, I mean,
Yeah.
I wouldn't mind if she came on your show. That would have helped her.
Right.
But aside from all these other shows, you know, just stop before
Yeah.
you end up doing more damage than
Hmm.
good, not just to yourself, but to other people out there.
Yeah.
Because it's so much that goes into uh, this type of breakup, especially when it's played out publicly.
Yeah.
And I mean, it can do
Mm-hmm.
so much to your psyche when you have, not only because you have your family that you're trying to deal with and sort out and figure things out, you got the public now making comments that you're
Yes.
seeing online, and that's jading your thoughts and things of that nature to where you're cursing people. So
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yes.
I just hope that she gets somewhere to disappear for a little while. And if it's still in her after she's figured it out, then maybe she can make her contribution that way and try to help others. But I mean, you don't have to put it out there just because it happened. Like you said,
Exactly.
everybody doesn't need to sell their trauma.
Yes, and I feel like she needs a lot of time to heal on her own, and she doesn't owe the world her story. And that's the thing about social media is they feel like you owe them the story, you owe them
Mm-hmm.
the explanation. You owe us the backstory of what went down in your relationship, in your marriage, and she doesn't owe anybody that. And I hope she doesn't buckle under the pressure to feel like she has to tell her story to help other people. You don't owe anybody that because you got to get your healing for yourself first.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like I said, I don't have a problem with her doing it. Because if somebody asks you to go on a show, especially, if they genuinely are like, okay, we just want to talk to you, give you a chance to speak, because aside from all those videos and stuff, we really didn't hear her speak unless she was doing the craziness. So it was like, okay, well, to give her that chance to speak, and it could have been something that helps her. She might look at this interview back and say, dang, I thought I was healed, but maybe I'm not healed in certain spots. Or,
Hmm.
it may be actually sometimes it's good for us to speak out. One of the reasons that, this podcast became so popular is that we've both, Eric and I both been through, trauma and things like that. So we were able to relay those things and those moments that we had, and we got a following because people were listening to it and they could relate to it. I think in her
Hmm.
situation, it's a similar thing. Now, again, it's just that one show. If she decided that she about to like do a whole podcast tour and everything, I'm like, I don't know, this might be a little bit much. But just with that one show, no, I'm okay with it. But I do think that she does need to be careful as far as like who she lets into that space.
Yeah.
If she gets other people, like I said, this particular platform she was on, I think it was the best one for
Yeah,
her to do something like
I
that.
do. I respect him because I know he is, you know, he's not going to put something out there that's going to traumatize you more. He's
Hmm.
respectful and all that. So that's the best place for her to do it. But I
Hmm.
still think it was too soon. It was just too soon because all of the contradictions that I heard in her interview was like there's still a lot of stuff for her to go through yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Now,
but
don't say too much because when she accepts that invite that I sent her for dope discussions, then we can't.
I'm not going to invite her right now. I don't want. I really respect the healing process, and I feel
Oh
like
yeah.
if I don't want to bring somebody on the show to have them say something that and they're not really ready for that yet. I don't know. I just I don't as much as we live our lives around, social media, we're podcasters, we like to put messages out there. I still feel like it a lot of this stuff can be too invasive sometimes.
It can.
And I war with myself all the time about I wish we could just get rid of social media altogether because a lot of times it just too much for me. It'd be too much
Yeah.
for me. The arguing back and forth, the controversy, all you see is negativity. You see more negativity than positivity, and that really weighs on me a lot.
Right. I mean, but then that's why we have shows like this. This is why we have shows, out there that really promote positivity in the sense. We go have some dope discussions. We're not gonna have some dope yelling at folks. You know
Mhm.
what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
that's what I love about this show. We can do
Yeah.
that, and that's
And
what
we're
people
grateful
love
for
about it.
shows like this as well. Definitely grateful for shows like this.
Well, appreciate you, Q.
Definitely
I know you got
appreciate
to get
that.
out of here. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for giving
Now,
me a little time. You all take care.
All right.
all
Good
right,
night.
now
Bye.
the best beard in the business has left the building.
Yes, but that was a great conversation. I had wrote so many notes. Man, I ain't even got through half of my notes, but I think that was we really I really got the point across that I just felt like so many people were, trying to egg this on with her, and I don't know. I know she said in the interview that her reason for doing the podcast was because of Lateris and his approach, and
Yeah,
she knew he was going to create a safe space for her to be able to tell her story and not scandalize it any more than it already has been.
right.
And that's why I wanted to watch it, because I knew it was going to be um, insightful. I know that his motto on his show is being very transparent,
Yeah,
asking the difficult questions, not sugarcoating anything. So she did put a lot of details out there that will probably get her more scrutiny and more backlash, because
oh yeah,
of people knowing that she saw videos of him having sex with other women and she still stayed. Um, she
yeah,
would go on, social media and stalk the women's pages and study how they dress and what they look like in order to change herself up and to make him want to be with her. All of that stuff, I identified with that because I've been through those obsessive thoughts where my man was cheating on me and I'm trying to figure out what is it that he sees in these other women that makes him have to go cheat on me instead
yeah,
of why am I not enough? So I
yeah,
understood all of that, but
yeah.
I just think it's still it's too it's too new, it's too raw.
Yeah, and like I said, I can't. I don't know for sure. I can only suspect that it's not she's not completely healed just yet. I don't know for sure, but I do know one thing: the fact that she was able to get on that show and literally speak about something that was as dramatic, you know, as what she had just been through. That took a lot of it did take courage to actually to do that, because she had to know going on the show people was gonna come back and be clowning and doing all that, because one of the most that clip where she was like, where she knew other women's body better than she know hers, that clip got blasted so much. Just folks
Hmm.
just calling her all kind of dumbness and you stupid for this and you was, yeah. So I mean, but again, you probably understand it better than
Yeah,
some
none,
may do.
none of what she said was surprising to me. None of what
Yeah.
she said um, made me judge her anyway, because I know I've done all of that. I've stayed when he had babies on me. So none
Hmm.
of that. I'm never saying she's stupid for any of that,
Yeah.
because I understand the mindset behind it.
Right.
When you have daddy issues and rejection and abandonment issues, you'll do anything to hold on to a relationship, even if it's toxic.
Yeah, I was so surprised at the amount of people, and it was a lot of women, especially, that was literally attacking her on that particular clip when they were talking about that. And well, she deserved all of it if she was gonna be dumb enough to sit there and deal with all that. What I'm saying? Not realizing that a lot of people go through that.
The very people who were saying that have gone through
They have
that.
gone through it, right?
So they can
Exactly.
that part of it, they can keep that. My thing was
Mhm.
the spirituality of blaming everything on God. That part I did not agree with. And you know, making it seem like she's above other people because she has a relationship with God. God doesn't have any favorites.
No, he doesn't.
He
Now,
doesn't
I mean,
choose and pick who his favorites are. We're all his children. And I
right.
don't like that type of spiritual arrogance where some people say, God don't play about me and God
Yeah,
this and that's about me. Like, God made us all
yeah.
and he
I
doesn't
was gonna
have
say,
favorites.
yeah, I was gonna say that's a common thing that you see though. You see a lot of the, I mean, the God don't play about me, and I'm his child, and I mean, but that's another thing that it's they teach in a lot of
Mhm.
these places. One of the things that I also had to kind of keep in mind when I was watching that whole video is that my church ain't like her church. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've dealt with some churches that are on that, you know, wild out level where you're like, okay, So I
Yeah,
also saw it from that vantage point, like, okay, I'm
exactly.
dealing with somebody who's going through this type of church. Me and my cousin joke about that all the time because she grew up in a church where they couldn't wear shorts. The girls couldn't wear
Yeah,
shorts. They couldn't wear jeans. They could only wear skirts, but they were still Christians. And they had
yeah,
to wrap their hair kind of like Muslims would do. But it
yeah,
was but that's the kind of church that they came up in, and they were very strict about what time they had to eat and
yeah,
all that kind of stuff. And they had a lot of those like pro misogynist type of viewpoints in that church. And she was like, it was hard for her to deal with when she got into relationships because she would always think that, okay, well, whatever the man tells me to do, I'm supposed to do. I don't know, and so it was hard for her to deal with the fact that some men ain't ish.
yes.
You
And
don't need to
that
listen to them.
I'm glad you made that point that all churches are different. And that's another element that I feel like she's going to need healing from.
Mhm.
I saw some of the teachings and preachings from the church that she goes to. It's a very fanatical church.
Yeah.
It's one of those churches that preaches fire and brimstone
Yeah.
and casting out demons and laying hands on people and you know really really hard die hard fanatical, like you can
Mhm.
pray over people and change them and bring things out of them,
Mhm.
and that can easily morph into you thinking that you're God.
Or not even that you're God, but that you can channel things as his vessel to heal this and fix this situation and do all that, and that's one of the reasons I wanted
And
to,
it's
I wanted to
it's
bring that up.
witchcraft. It's plain and simple
You know, it
witchcraft.
you've got a lot of that in her that you can see. And now the unfortunate part about that is, you know, there are some people who that's what, you know, that's the way they view
Hmm.
church. They view, look, my dad, when I talk to my dad, I get a fire and brimstone speech every time I talk to him. I could be telling him,
Hmm.
I just got through reading my Bible, Dad. Well, did you read the part about the fire and the brimstone? Did you part about getting saved? You don't even need to be riding in no cars with no girls. You know that, huh?
they
Because when you
actually
ride the car with a girl, that could be a problem. I'm like, what are you talking about that?
they actually think that they can channel God to do their bidding. Like if I tell God I want him to do this to this person or do this for this person, he'll do it for me. God don't operate like that. He does not force his will on people. And when you use him in that way, that's witchcraft.
Mhm. Right, you're using it as almost like idolatry instead of actual, Christianity.
He's a tool to for your bidding. I tell God to do this for me and he'll do it.
Right,
No.
right. But
You
again,
ain't on you're not the power over him. He the power.
right. But again, Now that's a whole nother prayer we'd have for her is to get rescued from that type of you know
Yeah,
church home and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah.
yeah.
So it's a whole combination of that, the daddy issues. She was raped at the age of 19. That trauma, all of that compounded into one has there's no possible way that 8 months
Mm,
of healing is enough to undo 40 years
right
of
now,
that.
don't get me wrong, it'll never be undone, right? But
Right.
what it I think will eventually happen is that she'll
There
be
has to
moved
be a
back and
lot of
say,
deprogramming
yeah,
and reprogramming, and you can't undo that in a short period of time. It took me 5 years to be able to start being transparent about the things that I went through and not getting emotional about it, not being emotionally tied to it, and not trying to spin the story in a way that made me look good. And, telling it for what it really was, my role in it, the ugliness that I played in it, and not feel like I'm less of a person because I
mm,
did these things or I participated in these things. When you are still telling the story and trying to spin it to where you look like the victim or you look like the survivor, the overcomer, and everything that was done to you and you overcame it, you're still not ready yet because, like she said some stuff, but there's still some stuff she's not really ready to touch yet.
I think so. I mean, now that being said, she did go through trauma. She did
Hmm.
publicly go through, a ass kicking by a narcissist, and you know,
And my
uh,
fascination. Oh, I'm fascinated with her too, but I am also fascinated with what kind of what kind of trauma or whatever, what did he go through to where he can totally disassociate himself from the image that he portrays to the public and then
mhm,
the person he is. I mean, everything that you talked about in your videos, you
yeah,
were actually doing those things, but you
you were
were saying it as if
right,
you're above those things. And I'm
exactly.
trying to tell you ladies on what to look out for because I know these type of men. Those type of men are you.
Right, that is you. That was one part that I felt really bad for her because he was talking about the Mother's Day post when he
Hmm.
posted for Mother's Day, and she was surprised because she didn't realize he had posted. It's like she hadn't even been like looking at his page, but her friend was like, "Oh yeah, he posted, this message for her, I guess, for Mother's Day." And in this message, he misspelled the woman he's been married to and still is married to's name.
Mm.
Misspelled her name. Like it's like
Mm.
you put out this sweet thing about, oh, even when she couldn't help herself, she was pushing herself to help everybody else and help me and help, the kids, and she was so selfless, and then you just misspell her name. Like,
I,
okay, you
that might have not even been him. That might have been somebody managing his page or something
probably
that
was.
posted that.
Probably
'Cause he
was.
probably didn't even post that himself.
Right. No sincerity. I see none in him.
Yeah. I'm just I'm like, okay, do you consciously know that you're living a double life, or do your personalities not know about each other? They don't
So
talk.
maybe that's what it is. Maybe he got two personalities going
Cause
on.
you gotta know you lying to people.
Because maybe so the one that spell his name Jaxn is the false personality, right? Because ain't no way you spell Jackson Jaxn, right? So
Right.
that's the made up guy, and
Yeah.
then the real guy is the
J A K C
Jackson.
K S O N. Your
Right,
government name.
exactly.
It's so fascinating. I would
Evil.
love to have his brain under a microscope and just examine it. Like, where did the wiring get messed up?
Hmm.
Because, sir, you are a liar.
Exactly.
But you
So
believe your own lies, though.
he does. He really does. He's invested in himself in his own lives. The divorce is still in court. How much you want to bet that the second that divorce is done, he gonna be on some side of OnlyFans or some kind of craziness?
I wouldn't narcissists move on really fast. I
Yeah.
would not put it past him to not get married or announce his
Oh
engagement or
yeah.
something like that because they always have to have a main woman. Even if
Somebody
they
to
have a lot of women, there's always got to be a main one
yep. Somebody to master manipulated.
to make him look good.
Exactly. So he can hide behind that when he.
Hmm.
But I just hope that he buys a better bonnet this time and puts it on.
and I never understand. Now all of this is playing out in the public. So any woman that you get with, there's no way that she don't know who you are and what's been going on. So you think that you're going to be the one that he's going to be faithful to.
Here's the thing, right? And a lot of people like that's not from Louisiana may not know who Derek Todd Lee was, right?
I
So
remember him.
Derek Todd Lee, he's a black guy. He's a serial killer. Killed I think 17 women or whatever.
Yeah.
He had a girlfriend when he was in jail.
Wait. So she she started dating him after.
Yeah. So hey,
I guess in her mind, she said, "Well, he up in there, so he can't kill me up in there."
right, and
And
he
at
ain't
least
gonna
I know
cheat.
where he at. Yeah, at
Right.
least I know where he at. My goodness,
Mm, mm, mm.
I
So yeah,
can't.
that's
Well,
real
thank
out
y'all
here.
all for tuning in for another dope discussion. This was awesome. Thank you, Talk to Q, Quincy, for joining us. And we'll
Yeah.
see y'all again next Tuesday, same time, same place.
Same channel. Peace.